Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Um, Maybe you could kick off with just like a really brief intro to Me, Myself, and I. Tell us, for people who don't know anything about the film, a bit what it's about, and also about your character, Diane.
Oh well, so I think it's a very kind of heartwarming, typically British comedy. It kind of in that kind of vein of like the early 90s, those kind of dealing with some gritty kind of things and but with a lot of humor. And it's kind of it almost feels like a bit of a love letter to those kind of those very quintessentially British kind of holiday seaside towns. And yeah, I just think it's fun. It's about Janet, who is she's well, I guess she might be described as like a Bridget Jones type character, but she's kind of this lovely this sweet girl who has kind of lived in the same town and feels like there's more to life, and she wins a holiday to a caravan park in Rill and takes her best friend Di. I play Di. Di is a horror. I mean, I just think Di's a bit of a horror. I've met some Di's in my time, so I think hopefully I'm hoping too many people don't have too many Di's in their life, but she's kind of a recognizable character, and she gets kind of dragged along to this holiday in Rill and tries to persuade Janet that she needs to have this kind of alter ego and pretend to be someone else to try and get a boyfriend, and kind of and fun ensues really, but it all kind of things don't quite work out how we think they're going to work out. But I think it's really fun, and I think there's a lot of heart and there's a lot of great characters, and I hope that it's kind of an enjoyable watch.
And watching it kind of did make me think, yeah, definitely of like kind of on the British side, kind of like 90s like comedy and stuff. But then when thinking of other kind of female-led comedies, maybe kind of like Muriel's Wedding,
Yes,
so
yeah.
do you feel like, do you have some favorite kind of female comedies that you've loved watching? And do you think there was kind of some of those elements in it as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think kind of Muriel's Wedding's a good shout because it is a lot of the film. I mean, from what me and Katie had to do with Janet and Di, it's about this friendship and this friendship that is slightly, well, it's probably a lot dysfunctional actually, because Di kind of bullies Janet to an extent. But yeah, I mean, I grew up, I loved all of those, the Victoria Wood and the Julie Walters stuff. And I think those things about kind of that female friendship and how that plays out in the film. And I've been talking a lot about Di, and when I first kind of read it, I thought she's awful. Like this is hard, like not hard. It's great fun. It's so fun because she's some of the scenes that I got to do as Di, but I had to kind of do a lot of work to kind of empathize with her and like her a bit more. And I think by the end of the film, I warm to her a bit more, and hopefully other people do. But she's trouble. She's a pain in the arse, is Di, but very very fun to play.
Yeah, I was thinking that watching it, that maybe there's something liberating about playing a character that maybe isn't that likable, because you can just kind of really go for it and kind of really get your teeth into
God, it was
like the kind of person
fun.
she is.
It was so fun because she's kind of a bit of the villain, I think, in throughout, quite a lot of this film. But yeah, so fun, so fun. Also hard not to kind of there were times where I was like, I don't want to kind of caricature her, but I could go quite big with how awful she was. So yeah, it was great fun.
And
great.
also just like, yeah, a lot of the scenes you have to do, and there's lots of kind of dressing up and, doing the sort of like bits on stage. So, were there some real highlights, some really fun bits to film, or, did anything kind of go wrong at any point that made you laugh?
Oh, so much went wrong because we hit the worst weather I think in
Oh,
the history of Real. So we were there in the summer, but it was torrential rain. It was like gale force winds. So I think there was a lot of moving things back. So we were shooting outside a lot, and we would wake up in the morning and be like, oh, okay. But that didn't really affect us. That kind of production love them had to deal with that. But I think I loved the pageant scene. I love when Di has a meltdown at the beauty pageant. That was really fun. And just anything with Katie, like me and Katie met at the audition, went up to Real, and we lived together throughout the whole of filming. And it was just, I feel like, I hope that it comes across that we had good chemistry and just really enjoyed kind of bouncing off each other. I mean, the whole crew we were so lucky. It was so much fun. Like everyone, it sounds really cliche, but we were like a big family, because when we weren't filming, we were on this campsite all like going for dinner together. So it was so fun. It was like the loveliest crew.
and it just looks like so much fun to really kind of lean into, like you say, like the such British holiday camp. And I was also thinking, because of the pandemic and stuff, so many more people have been embracing, haven't they, like staycations, going to these seaside resorts, which I guess kind of got overlooked, when everyone started like going abroad for holidays. But was there something brilliant about that as well? And just kind of, like the really camp guy with this sort of like really all the innuendos over the tannoy and all this sort of thing. Was that just kind of really funny to really embrace it all?
Yeah, there's some real like nostalgia, I think, in the film of those kind of holidays, and just that really British experience of yeah, we're on our holiday, we're going to enjoy it, and it not being and it being a bit crappy, like when they get to I don't want to give too much away, but like, they get to the holiday camp, and this 5-star caravan turns out to be, one that's been decommissioned. But yeah, and this is what I love about, and I think everyone, I think Katie as Janet is just so she embodies that like that British kind of optimism. Like she's just always kind of pleased to be there, and this lovely kind of soul, which I think Katie did amazingly. Sort of dealing with everything that's going on and dealing with Di, and yeah, I think that I hope there are very recognizable elements, I think, in the film from just that kind of growing up in that sort of environment.
Mm. And like, even though you're not kind of on a Caribbean beach somewhere, you can still get dolled up and you can still order cocktails. And, that's what's so brilliant about it. Probably
Yeah,
someone who's not British will watch it and think, what the hell?
I know, that's the thing. I wonder if it kind of, I hope it kind of translates elsewhere, but I think it's such a kind of Brit flick, I think.
Definitely. And obviously it is a comedy, and there's lots of silly bits to it, but there's also, as I think you mentioned at the beginning, there are some deeper issues that go on there, like, and the confidence that she has in herself, Katie's character. So, what do you think, if people were going to take some things away from it, aside from, being made to laugh, what do you think they would take away?
Yeah, I think we tackle like a couple of kind of, I guess, darker kind of issues, and that thing of people juggling, there's humor and tragedy, I think, in most people's lives. And I think that balance of I think that's what the Brits do really well in storytelling and filmmaking, is you think of things like the Full Monty, and things that are dealing with things that are really quite dark and depressing, but kind of we do tend to put a good kind of comedic spin on that, and I think that's great British storytelling. But yeah, there were some scenes where, I mean, I love doing comedy. If I could do comedy all day, I would. But yeah, some of the scenes that probably were a bit harder to film, that dealt with slightly more serious issues. And I think just the whole thing with Di, there's a sadness to Di. Like she's a very funny, I think, a kind of unintentionally funny character, but there's a real kind of, there's a sadness to her, because she is this kind of, she's clinging on to something, and I think I said before, she's kind of a product, I think, of her environment, and she's not ready to kind of let go of what she thinks she is and move on to the next stage of her life. And I think we can all kind of think of those times where you think, oh God, I need to adult now, actually. And for Katie's character, for Janet as well, that kind of coming of age thing, I think that people can recognize, and hopefully enjoy.
And I thought there's also this element kind of like class divides, you know, kind of like some of it obviously is kind of exaggerated, and then, you know, we find out, you know, that posh family aren't actually all they seem either, and Katie's character, Janet, you know, obviously pretending to be someone she's not. But did you think that was something that came out of it, kind of like how it is such a big thing in the UK, how much judgment is passed on, you know, what accent you have, where you're from, where you go on holiday?
Yeah.
So do you think that was also an important part of it?
Yeah, massively. And I think it is, I kind of, I remember even talking to like one of my best friends who grew up in Wales, and she said, I think it's a very English thing, the kind of the class divide thing, and the kind of, you know, snobbery about certain things. And yeah, I mean, there's some great comedy out of that in the film. But yeah, I think, and Jenny, who plays Tiger's mum, who's just, what I mean, everyone was just so good. Like, just watching everyone was so fun. But yeah, I think that is something that is very unique to Britain. And yeah, hopefully, yeah, it's a little bit Romeo and Juliet, isn't it? Because they're like coming from very different backgrounds. Yeah, I had to do hopefully not an awful Bolton accent. I kind of gave it my best shot. So hopefully, I apologise to anyone who's from Bolton who's like, oh, this is terrible. I kind of went generic Northern, but so fun.
And I was also going to ask, you know, obviously, you know, you sort of became famous first through modelling, and then now you've kind of moved into acting, you've been doing some presenting. So how do you see that shift, you know, and what are your sort of memories of kind of being in that world? I guess when it was kind of a heyday, thinking of like lads mags and all that kind of thing. And how do you find, having moved into acting now, is this more kind of your passion?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had fun. You know, my modeling career was fun, and I can't knock it, but I think it was something that is very, I think it's outdated. I think it had its time. I'm not one of these people that was sad to kind of see the demise of that. I think it was very of its time, and I think we've moved on, and I think kind of thankfully society is kind of catching on to a different way of presenting women or whatever. But yeah, I love acting. I feel really lucky, and without modeling, I don't think I would have got the opportunity to kind of get some of the acting work that I've got. So I'm just kind of, yeah, just enjoying it and seeing what comes, and kind of auditioning and just hoping that some more little gems like Me, Myself and Di kind of come my way. But yeah, just really loving it, really enjoying it at the moment.
I was just, because another issue that is hit upon is kind of, you know, how confident she is about her figure and all this kind of thing, and whether there's something else in that. Like, how do you see perceptions have shifted since your days of modeling, you know, with the body positivity movement? And is it something that's coming to the fore now and trying to be dealt with in more films, that you don't have to kind of be a cookie cutter version of the ideal woman to kind of have a leading role, or, you know, our ideals of beauty? But then I guess you've got, on the other hand, social media seems to be sending things the other way as well. So there's kind of some contradictory things going on.
I mean, it's so complex, isn't it? And I feel like, in a way, yeah, like I look and I think, have we moved forward in a better or worse way? Because there's always the kind of extremes, aren't there? And I kind of think, visibility wise, I think body image for women, I think there are more different kind of body types that a bit than when, you know, when I was growing up, kind of, you know, I'm 37, so I grew up kind of 90s with the kind of the supermodels and you know, and it's just, I think it is just about visibility. And even acting, I kind of notice, you kind of go, you know, there's a lot of the same looking people that get the same jobs, and you kind of, I think it's starting to open up. And I think people want to hear different stories. We don't want to see the same bodies, we don't want to hear the same stories. So I guess it's getting better. But there's the thing with social media, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think there's the body positivity movement. I think people can be really down on social media, and I have a bit of a love-hate with it, but I think it just reflects who we are as a society. So there's the great bits of it, and then there's the awful bits of it. But I feel like I've got an 18-year-old niece, and I feel like her generation are far more just aware of everything. And I kind of think, you know, I'm not ashamed of my modeling past, but I look back and I think, given the chance again, would I have kind of gone down that route? And I think it's not a bad thing that we are kind of having these conversations and looking at these things, and realizing that it's not just, because I love, you know, I've got friends who still model, and I've got friends who are body positivity models, and, you know, and I think it's really, I think it's quite important to have like the naked form not seen as something, you know, to be ashamed of. But I think we're understanding more, and I think girls now have a bit more control and awareness about kind of what they're putting out. But then I guess on the flip side, there's, you know, people are putting things on Instagram and it's getting stolen. But yeah, I think we're understanding a bit more about, you know, how society values women, which is only a good thing.
Yeah, it feels like maybe there's still a lot of progress to be made, but it's at least becoming a healthier conversation. I don't know if that's the way you feel. Or...
Yeah, and I think just even, you know, I mean, me and my flatmate, what was I doing the other day? And I had to find an old article. I had to find something for somebody from when I was modeling. And I kind of, you know, when I was in it, I was just kind of, it was my job. I turned up, I did a photo shoot, and I kind of had to find an article. I was looking, and it wasn't so much the pictures, it was the writing that went with it. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, I can't believe that I was sort of, I guess I didn't really pay attention, but you do start to yourself go, was I, you know, part of something that was actually quite damaging? Just the language about, like, it was an article about, oh, you know, Lucy's gonna stay trim for all of you readers. And it was something that was so like horrifying to me looking back on it. But I think we've come, you know, I think we're getting there, and we're having conversations about, you know, representation and, you know, and consent and just respect, and you know, yes, women should be able to do what they like, but also not, you know, I've got friends who have OnlyFans and still model, and I think that they feel more empowered by doing it themselves, you know. And they still get stigma, they still get, you know, abuse online, saying, oh God, you've done this. And it's like, just let people be, like, leave these women alone. Appreciate what they look like, leave them alone. But yeah, I think there's a lot, it's so layered, isn't it, that whole discussion. And we had this within the film, because Di's you know, she kind of, I think she loves Janet in her own way. I think Janet adores Di kind of blindly. There are times when we were filming and I thought, no one would be friends with Di. She's awful. But they're all just, you know, and Andy and the boyfriend puts up with so much. But I think she uses Janet to make herself feel better. And that all comes from her own insecurity. But still it's not on. But she kind of, you know, she'll that thing of kind of weaponizing something against someone to make you feel better. And I think, you know, that is it's like the British press. It's like what we do, isn't it? You know, bring someone down, make you feel better. But yeah, oh God, I hope we're going in the right direction, but we'll see.
I was also just thinking, so I've taken up so much time, but no, I haven't even seen it, but the Friends reunion and how everyone was talking about after watching it. But why is it men can grow old and look tired and look however they want, and then there's this insane pressure for women to stay looking 21 sort of for their entire lives? So, you know, is that something else that's still very much there? And have you ever felt pressure yourself to look a certain way?
Oh, I
You're
think
kind of free of it now.
I think it can be a really slippery slope. And I think, you know, especially when I was modeling, and I think I probably used to kind of pick myself apart more when I was younger and I was modeling. And now I'm, you know, I'm like, this is my face, this is my body. But I think it's a very, it can be a really slippery slope. And, you know, and you see people who have kind of gone a bit too far or whatever, but you kind of understand why, because if you're constantly being, it takes a lot to not take things personally, I guess. If I was, you know, one of the Friends lot, I'm sure I would feel massive pressure to kind of look a certain way. And I think there is just generally but especially in this industry, because you do have to, you know, you're unfortunately part of what you're doing is you're inviting people to kind of have an opinion on what you look like. And that's kind of something with me that I'm just sort of, I think I probably struggle. There are days when I think, oh God, I look, you know, I'm really looking my age, or you know, maybe I'll get this done, or maybe I'll do that. But I think, you know, a few tweaks here and there, I think, can easily turn into too much. So I think it's just, you know, there are some great, there are some great people out there doing great stuff, but I get why, I absolutely get why people get things done. But it's slippery slope.
And I guess just finally, you know, saying that you've like really enjoyed kind of interacting and having more roles, do you have any like things already in the pipeline, or do you have like films that you particularly like to do, people like to work with in future?
There's like a few things that are kind of that might come off, and just auditioning and hopefully getting some more little gems. But I mean, I love comedy. I do love comedy. I do comedy all day if I could, but just enjoy it, like try not to overthink it, and just if things come in that look fun or, you know, a bit challenging, just really enjoying, just kind of loving the acting. So hopefully get to do more.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting with me, and best of luck with the future projects. And and hopefully people are going to be able to see it in the cinema, right? This film.
I think it's released. There's a screening that I'm missing on the 11th, and then I think it's out for release shortly after that. So keep an eye out.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. People will be absolutely gagging to get back to the cinema. So it's going to be a good summer watch. Well, so lovely to chat to you. Thanks so much, Lucy.
Have fun in LA.